Why am I dark side? Part 2 of the unfortunate GD. Welcome to part 2. This is the same guy who couldn't believe searching every nook and cranny didn't deliver a lightsaber to him. Once again, apologies for any formatting problems. So in this Star Wars system we were playing, FFG really enjoy it. There is a morality scale for any force sensitive that goes from 0, which is pure dark side, to 100, which is a paragon of the light. I started the GD player off at 70, which is the point that one would go from dark side to light side. Now for those of you who didn't read the other post, I warned my players that this time frame was very unfriendly towards GD, and that GD were remarkably rare right now. Most of them choose some scoundrel or another, but this one player wants to be a GD. Cool, that's fine, no big deal. However, the other players had all written up backstories and characters that would rather make money than do the right thing. I warned GD player about this. He says it's fine, but it wasn't. This is a horror story because every loss of morality, even just 1 point, was met with major resistance. At the start he is a race of people actually I believe who believe you don't truly know somebody until you have fought them or seen them fight all out or something similar. So we do a procession kind of thing. Introduce characters, go through the duels with the rest of the crew, etc. Good time. He comes out in a tie against the Mandalorian and a sad loss against the Transition. In comes the human mechanic. Absolutely not a combat character. GD insists on the fight. Won't take no for an answer. Mechanic asks for the GD's vibrock knife to show him what he's good at. Mechanic doesn't state his intent, but it is fairly obvious he's not going to attack. He was intending to show how he can pimp out gear. GD tosses the knife in front of the mechanic, and as the mechanic bends over to grab it, the GD full force clubs the mechanic across the head. No remorse. He loses some morality, about 3 or 5 for that, and gets agitated. Why should he lose morality for it? Moving on to the actual campaign. He works out a back alley weapon smuggling deal pretty much on his own, while the Mandalorian actually just idles for a minute. GD works out a price he likes. The guy agreed, only to get him to jog on. Loses like 23 morality. Cause what, GD is setting up deals like this with no further info, or at all? So he goes to find the rest of the crew, who are at an underground gambling den where they've gone to let their Transition crack some skulls, and make some creditors off of them gambling and Transition winning. Now as we flash over to them, I explain this is highly illegal, because it's death matches, and not all the participants are willing, as in their gambling, fell through and now they're going to win it back, or pay in blood. Everyone else is into it. Makes sense for most of them. The GD sits there in turmoil. What would a good GD do? Bet every penny he has on the Transition? No. But he does it anyway. 20 morality. So now he's at 42ish morality. All this in 23 sessions. I'll let him know he's skating down a slippery path and is 12 points away from falling. He is upset and angrily and loudly states I'm not giving him opportunities to be good. Okay, I'm not dropping obvious moments to him, but he's also not looking for them either. He wants to be a good GD, but he's the most money hungry of them all. So he's unwilling to take a low paying job that would up his morality. I'll let him know to look for jobs that will give him the morality boost he wants. He never does. Gang goes to drop off the guns. Turns out the folks that are supposed to pay can't afford the price the dealer quoted. Who'd have guessed? The GD then states they better find the money or something. He stops talking because of an incredulous look I couldn't stop myself from giving. They then force these broke revolutionaries to scrounge together everything they can to be able to pay the crew. GD lets it happen. Even encourages it 3 morality. So about this time he's been throwing force around willy-nilly, thinking that base level persuade is going to make a shopkeeper hand over all their good at a loss. 1 morality. Also it doesn't work like that. Who has taken note of this obscene use of power? But a Sith Lord. Not just any Sith, but the Jedi's old master. They capture the GD and his crew and the old master goes on a spiel about balancing the universe by destroying both sides of the conflict and keeping it as such. Says GD should join him and aid him in such an endeavor. If he chooses not to, they will be enemies, but the crew is free to go for now. The wise GD accepts this Sith Lord as his master, stating he himself will not become a Sith. Q and I roll that detached retinas. No at 38 morality, 8 points away from the dark side. He begins to actually slow down. Unfortunately, after a couple bad rolls, he uses the dark side of the force a couple time and drops to 36. Now, he's been foaming at the mouth for a lightsaber. A real child in action. So I drop him a line. If he can beat one of the other apprentices at a duel, his master will bestow him the parts to craft the saber. So he sprints around the Star Destroyer until he finds his opponent and challenges her. She liked him, so she agrees. The other apprentice didn't like him. Didn't hate him, but didn't like him. The fight starts. He gets his ass handed to him right quick. A couple weeks later he tries again under the supervision of his master. Unknown to him, this is his last chance. Fail here and he won't be given another opportunity for a lightsaber. At least from his master. So the fight starts again. This time he is doing everything he can to take down the other apprentice. Critting at every opportunity. Now the crits in this system don't up damage, but rather you roll on a table, and it decides what happens. From losing 1 strain at 0-1 to just outright dying at 151. Each previous crit adds 10 to the roll along with any other modifiers you may have. They are also optional. So he crits over and over, and he's doing some terrible things to this woman. At one point he carves out her eye because of a crit that permanently lowered a stat. I think it was 121. He gets nervous at that and says he doesn't want to kill her if he does land a 151. I say too bad. If you don't want to kill her, don't crit. He rolls his final attack and you guessed it, crits. Luckily he doesn't kill her, otherwise I'd have had an argument on my hands, but still. After the fight I drop him to 25 I believe and tell him he has fallen. He gets upset, asks why, etc. I explain he just gave in fully to his anger and that's not a Jedi thing. I think he wanted to argue that because it was a Sith it shouldn't count, but he didn't luckily. So anyway, that's how he fell to the dark side and complained about it the whole way while never making an attempt to change. There was one point where another character was going to feed a live person through a meat mulcher, but the Jedi talked him into killing the person first then feeding him through. So he gained like 1 or 2 morality for that. Later on he asks if his morality has risen since he's been doing good. All I can say is that actively not doing bad things does not equal doing good things. Edit. Clarified that crits are an optional thing. They are not forced upon you. You make the conscious choice to crit and risk killing someone.